started, so if everyone just wants to grab a seat. So yeah, welcome to the Den. We are the Decentralized Education Nexus. We run events, we're a blockchain career accelerator, and we're extremely happy to have Jeff Flowers and the GoWithMi team here today. They're going to be presenting their project, which from my previous discussions with them, sounds like they have a lot of traction and there's a lot of cool things happening. So without further ado, Jeff Flowers.
Thank you. Yes, so I'd like to introduce Marina Wee, our CMO at GoWithMi, based out of Beijing. What we're going to be discussing today is GoWithMi. Basically, GoWithMi is building the decentralized maps on blockchain for emerging markets to enable small to mid-sized businesses to thrive. So this is a deck that was presented quite recently at the LA Crypto Invest Summit. So we're going to just go through that deck since it covers all the aspects of the project. So first off, how many people used a map to get here today? Everyone, right? So we know that a great deal of data out there on the internet has a tremendous component with regard to GIS and GPS data. So it's a very critical component of today's internet is location-based information. So we'll start off with a brief history of blockchain. Everyone in here knows this, but let's for everyone else who might not, that might be seeing this at a later date in a different location. So we'll start off with, if you will, blockchain 1.0 with the advent of Bitcoin and the idea of here we can move value across using a UTXO model. So we're simply moving value through time. This, of course, led to various achievements, but also there were some real limitations. And that's what started, if you will, blockchain 2.0 with the advent of Ethereum and EOS, where now we're going towards an account-based model where you could have smart contracts that could execute complex logic. Now, even here, with the blockchain 2.0 world, there are limitations. We know that. We've heard all about scaling problems and interoperability problems. But we're not going to talk about those here now. What the GoWithMi team realized, if you look at time, that's great, but there's other dimensions outside of time. Actually, time is not the fourth dimension. That's been proven. There's actually the fourth dimension was tracked with the gravity bead probe experiment recently. Well, I guess it was a decade ago, where the fourth dimension was discovered. But nonetheless, we think of time as a dimension. But what we do know, there is this thing called space-time. And in fact, space was, if you will, the extra dimension that adds real value to actual people trying to solve real problems and challenges. So GoWithMi basically thought we need to incorporate spatial components of information along with this time-based component that we all are very familiar with regard to blockchain. So first off, the opportunity space. We all know that maps are important. I mean, everyone in here raised their hand when I asked how many people used a map to get here. So we know maps are important, and it represents a 20 billion USD market. But that's not where the real value is. It's actually in the businesses that use the maps. That's the real opportunity space. Think about all the businesses, Uber, DoorDash, etc., that use maps in order to operate their businesses. That's really the interesting component here, building a platform. So we know that maps are important, but the ecosystem is more important. So GoWithMi is targeting, I said, just the emerging markets. So Southeast Asia, Africa, and the South Americas. Why not? Actually, I was talking to a gentleman here from another company that said, well, what about North America? I was like, well, these markets are very mature, and the market penetration for current technologies is too vast. And if you're building an ecosystem, a mapping ecosystem, to allow small businesses to thrive, they have to be accessible to small businesses. And quite frankly, the choices that we have that are very vast and very advanced are simply too expensive for these markets that we're targeting. Think of other maps. The license fees and the API access is just too costly for the markets that GoWithMi is trying to operate out of. So what are some of the challenges of location-based services on blockchain? Well, okay, let's dial it in as to what are the problems you have to solve in order to make your ecosystem successful in these markets. Well, first off, there's a question of like, well, how do we get the spatial data component? How do we know that this information is actually real, that there is in fact a business or a road where we have said it is? Because again, this is a huge problem in the space. You might see this by other names, such as the problem with regard to oracles. How do you get real-world data inside of a blockchain? So that's one component you need to solve just to start this ecosystem off. Another big component is, well, strong privacy guarantees. Nobody, apparently after the Mark Zuckerberg discussion with Congress, apparently nobody wants to be tracked and their data taken without their understanding and knowledge. So you got to have strong privacy guarantees. And actually, if you have strong privacy guarantees, we'll see that you could also have strong rights to your data. After all, you should profit from your data. Right now, we all know if you're not paying, you're the product. And I don't think anyone here paid for the mapping services they use to get here. So all that data is being monetized by someone else. So the next problem we need to do is, again, the reason why looking at emerging markets, the license fees and API access is there's just not the profit component for these markets, for these larger firms. Just too costly. Again, I think a lot of people if you do a lot of programming, a lot of programming is done using APIs. And a lot of that's hidden away from the end users. They don't even know that there's all this infrastructure that's being called upon. But if you ever do program and use APIs, you know that you have to factor in the cost of these services. And they will limit you and throttle you down. And then lastly, what you really need to do, again, to have an ecosystem that works well, you need to balance all these components, the real-time data input as well as the more complex metadata as to what businesses are there. So again, we all used a mapping service to get here. We all used it because it told us most likely the best route based upon current traffic conditions. But we also wanted to get to this door, so we had to know where that door was. So we need to balance all these components in a cost-effective manner. All right, so in an ideal world, if you had all this, right, and it all worked, what would it look like? Well, first off, you need to have a fully distributed system. We're all here. We obviously all have the Kool-Aid. We all like distributed, decentralized technologies. I don't think that's in question. But one of the reasons why this is so important is in the markets that GoWithMi is operating currently and wishes to operate in the future, there is the ability of local governments to perhaps modify how the data is used. Whereas in a decentralized distributed manner, you have an unstoppable application. You also need to make your system so it's better than a centralized platform. And that's hard to do, right? There's a reason why everything's centralized. It works a lot faster and a lot better. But the problem is strong privacy guarantees are out the door. You're the product, you're not the owner of your data, etc. So it is possible to have a better system than centralized services currently, to allow novel business models to emerge for small and mid-sized businesses. Again, this is targeting businesses to build on top of the ecosystem in addition to the individuals who just want to go home faster. And again, if you build it right and the users own their data, well, they should profit off their data. So we need to be able to distribute these payments to the users very effectively. But most importantly, we don't need another white paper project. And so, GoWithMi is very proud. This is not a white paper project. This is a real project operating right now. And we'll see a picture of that, or rather a video, I should say, of that right here.
Welcome to GoWithMi, the first global distributed smart map trust chain network. Our service already covers Indonesia and the whole Southeast Asia soon.
Yeah.
GoWithMi, based on decentralized crowdsourcing map, mobilize global users to spontaneously build a digital map platform of real-time update and global seamless coverage. Action is mining. Users' personal data is only owned by themselves. spatial consensus node claim ownership of digital territories based on land accounts of blockchain. However, the value of digital assets just depends on the relationship of supply and demand. GoWithMi, the mapware for blockchain world.
So let's see, let's go back to, I think, am I on? Did I do that right? Oh, so, okay, I think it's working. So again, this is not a white paper project. Everyone who sees this unfortunately thinks it's a game, a theoretical, or a prototype that doesn't quite work. It's actually been downloaded 1.1 million times. There are 22,000 active daily users right now in one market, Jakarta, Indonesia, and you can download it right now on the App Store. So this is a project that has actually been deployed. And lastly, I should mention the 22,000 daily users are on the platform for 32 minutes on average. So again, right now there are two types of users: those that are downloading the app, driving through Jakarta, Indonesia, and they're looking at the map in order to better understand where to avoid traffic. Now, it's a game device, but it's in order to gamify and incentivize people to drive it. It's basically non-creepy. It's, I think, a little bit creepy. I think we'd all agree when we go on another map service and they have a 3D rendering of your building. It might make you turn some people off on that. But here, this is literally Jakarta, Indonesia. The information was not obtained from another mapping service. That is to say, it's not a skin of another mapping product. This was crowdsourced from, starting with just a satellite image, and from that, crowdsourced in order to construct the actual data for that map. The real-time data is being captured by these 22,000 active users every day, feeding back to the system what the traffic conditions are. Now, why do they do this? Well, they're collecting crystals. They don't even know they're on blockchain. They're simply driving around, collecting these crystals, winning these points. The second user, and this is where it gets really quite interesting, that this will be rolled out shortly. The second type of user is going to contribute the metadata. That is to say, oh, I'm driving by, this is my route home, and I see these buildings over here, and I work here. I know what restaurants are here. I would like to purchase this land inside the ecosystem. So you can have these non-fungible tokens that represent 1 square kilometer of land, and then contribute back as to what restaurants, businesses, etc. exist within your Go zone. Why would you do that? As these businesses see the data with regard to traffic patterns, which are written to a public blockchain, so you don't need to trust anyone as to whether or not there's actual people driving by your storefront, you can then say, I'd like to advertise to those users. And as you advertise through the ecosystem, the owner of that non-fungible token, that land, if you will, they get the revenue from the ad, not the platform. The platform takes a cut, of course, I'm not going to lie. But it's a very different model, we would all agree, than the current system that we're all used to, where we turn on our application, and of course we know somebody else is profiting from that. So this is a slide, I like this slide, because usually you get a slide of all the developers, but I thought it'd be so much better to see the community. So this is a GoWithMi. They're very strong with regard to their local blockchain communities in Asia, and also looking at some of the users of the system. So right now, these are Gojek drivers. This is, if you will, like Uber in Indonesia. And so I thought it was quite interesting to see, the actual users are actually using the platform right now, and understanding that these individuals are able to build their business on top of this ecosystem. So they're able to actually use this right now in order to perform their business. So again, having an ecosystem or platform that supports other businesses is really quite interesting. So it's just interesting to see how this actually has been deployed and running in real time. So this is some of the information. It's a little bit more complex. I'm going to go through these slides real fast. You can see this we're going to have the whole deck up on the website. And also a lot of these are very information dense slides, but this is basically all in the white paper, which is forthcoming. But very quickly, it's got, GoWithMi is deployed across a public blockchain. That's super important to the team, not a private or federated chain. So this is actually being rolled out on public blockchains. first Ethereum, and it's going to be migrated over to EOS shortly. So again, the three components that we talked about earlier are represented here. We need to understand how to get information, real-world information, into blockchain. And so the spatial consensus thinking, or the technology stack here, is taking into consideration how to actually put data in. And then, of course, the co-governance, or the governance model here, well, you really have to take governance seriously. I think we all realize that now. So you don't want, for example, those non-fungible tokens or those Go zones that represent parcels of land to go and rot. You don't want people to buy them and speculate on them and never indeed add metadata. So understanding how to do that properly is a critical component. And of course, making sure that the incentives are aligned properly. I think a lot of blockchain projects, we know that incentives and the incentivization models are critical. So we'll just go through this. Again, this is all up on the stack. This is technology stack. I put this up here. Don't read this. But if you have any questions, we've got the CTO in the back. There's Simon. He's in the back end. And he can show you, if you ask nicely, the code. We're going to be getting that up on GitHub when we figure out how to do it without everything being stolen easily. But you can ask any sorts of questions with regard to how they've been building it out currently. So again, the workflow is what I've already said very quickly. There are two types of users, those that just want to get home quickly, and then those that say, hey, I understand this location very well. I'd like to purchase it and earn ad revenue in the future. So this works. This explains how does one go about and do this within the app currently. So what's more interesting than all the technology stack is how they're deploying it with a dual token model. And unlike a lot of projects have dual tokens now, or two tokens, a coin and a token, or some combination. But the dual token here again is split down the middle. You've got the native utility token to power the platform. This is what users are earning as they contribute real-time data back to the system. Again, users have no idea they're on blockchain. They're collecting crystals. Again, the best blockchain applications, I think, are ones that the user doesn't know they're on blockchain. If you start saying blockchain, you're going to turn a lot of users off. It needs to fulfill an actual use case and fix something. The more interesting part here is the non-fungible tokens, the Go zones. This is for the users that wish to contribute not just real-time data, but actual metadata. That I know that building right there in this parcel of land inside of the system, which represents, again, a real city, actually has these businesses here. And as they purchase these Go zones, this actual land, and contributes this metadata, they're earning, if you will, the ad revenue that those businesses then will contribute to the platform. So again, the Go zone looks like the following. It's just divvied up into 1 square kilometer plots within the system. You could then own this portion of land, and you can then improve upon it. As you improve upon it, again, this will basically give a value to the businesses that reside within this portion of the map to then advertise through the system. So not everyone's going to want to buy, of course, a plot of land. That's just reality. So there is still a lot of utility with regard to the native utility token. So you'll be able to obtain it by earning it through various activities, such as just driving through the system and contributing real-time data. You can also spend this by yourself perhaps advertising your business within the Go zone. And of course, you can stake and actually purchase these parcels of land within the ecosystem. So this will be the native utility token, that is to say, just the ERC20 token. They are having a pre-sale. You can check it out on the website. And the roadmap, the system is up and running in Jakarta, Indonesia, currently. They're going to be rolling out all throughout Southeast Asia, and then Africa and beyond. And we'll skip that one. The system, that happy, good-looking guy right there. Big head. Big head, that's big. But we've got here the CMO, Marina. Yeah. And Marina will tell you who's the founder. And
our founder, Oliver Lee, he has more than 20 years on the map industry. Yes, he is global. He has rich global experience in the map industry. So our CTO Simon, yeah, he also have more than 15 years on the map technology. So our lady, our CPO has a famous CPO in our country, especially in the map industry. Yeah. And yeah, that's me. Maybe I will show our investor,
Sure.
Dr. Tao Chuang.
Okay.
Yes, as a founder of Microsoft Bing Map. Yes, Bing Map. He's the founder of Microsoft Bing Map. And also our investor. Yeah. And you see the next one is our partner and also our investor in Indonesia from Krishna, a famous company in Indonesia. Yeah. And the third one named Cheng Congwu is a map, a map.com. We call it 高德地图 in China. A famous, yes.
So they have a great deal of industry partners as well as experience in the mapping sector. So and the commitment to the decentralization plan is quite significant. So some of the partners, some of the customers, we heard from some of the partners. Right now, again, they have a strong leadership from Bing Maps. Right now, they actually have customers. The biggest one, of course, is Grab, which is an Uber-like service in this market, as well as others like Gojek. Actually, this one's funny. We were talking to somebody quite by accident yesterday, and they say, "Hey, it sounds like Gojek," and we were like, "Oh my, yes, they are using the service presently." So, but more importantly, people always ask, well, what was the start of this, or what was the impetus to make this service and to build it out? So they're proud partners for the 2018 Asian Games. And what started this whole project off in April of this year, effectively the Asian Games were being held and the subway wasn't complete in time. So the government needed a solution very quickly to spin up ride sharing in order to allow all the people coming for the games to actually get around. So the start of this basically was through this seed of the local government wanting to have a ride-sharing service spun up as quickly as possible, and they had the foresight to think, why don't we start it off in a decentralized manner to begin with? And again, this is a project that I really encourage everyone to take a look at and connect with. And again, please connect with Marina here, or Simon, or even myself. But I think it's a really interesting project with a lot of potential. Because of the strong commitment to a decentralized future. And I think we're all here because we believe in a decentralized future, one that's free of having to worry about anyone, including the company, shutting down the service. When it's truly decentralized, no one can stop it. And even if they go bankrupt, knock on wood, not to, but knock on wood, the service still remains. So if you're a developer, why do they want to build on decentralized platforms? Well, it's because you don't have to worry about getting your API access shut down in the future. You know that you'll have access to that data. You'll have access to those APIs always. So thank you so much. And if there are any questions, I'd love to take them.
So, quick question on the Go Zone. To say that you can buy the digital assets or digital real estate, I guess?
Yes.
So what would prevent like a large company from kind of centralizing a lot of that stuff by buying a huge kilometers worth of space?
So the question is, okay, so we have those non-fungible tokens, those Go zones of land, if you will. What prevents somebody from coming in and speculating, scooping up all the good spots, and then having effectively a monopoly on all these locations? And that's where the incentive model really starts to kick in. So we're all in the Bay Area. We know how you really have to really think about incentive models, particularly around real estate. I mean, we all know the local real estate market is just completely broken. and for a lot of different reasons. So that's why we've been really struggling with how to dial this in properly, and that's talking a little bit also about governance. So first off, when you buy your Go Zone, your non-fungible 1 square kilometer plot of land, if you will, within the ecosystem, you basically also have to pay the concept of a tax. So you're paying a property tax. We've been actually working with an economist / programmer, Stephen Walderman, who suggested and writes a lot about the idea of the Harbinger tax, whereby once a year you basically value your land, not a third party or not like we have here, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on when you bought in, where you're locked in forever. So every year you say, hey, this is what my land is worth, and you pay tax based on that. If you say, hey, great, my land's worth $1, I'll pay tax on that. Well, somebody like myself could come and say, sold, here's your dollar, I'll buy it. So it incentivizes people to really think about what the real value of that parcel of land is. You don't want to overpay your taxes, but at the same time, you have the responsibility to your society to use the land to its maximal potential. And if somebody can do something with that land and you're not improving upon it, well, they really should have that right. Yes?
Another question on the same lines. What prevents me who buys a Go Zone from selecting whom I will advertise and who I'm not advertising?
Great question. The question is, well, as a Go Zone purchaser, do you have, if you will, the ability to deny advertising to a company or business within your Go Zone? And the simple answer is no. So you purchase a Go Zone with the idea that you will improve upon that Go Zone's metadata and say, oh, I know that these businesses reside within. And you might think, well, that business I don't like, and I would not want to advertise. I don't want to take your dollars. But because of the decentralized aspect of the ecosystem, that business can, in fact, advertise because that's being done on the platform level. You will, of course, get the revenue from the company. Maybe you can sleep well at night knowing that even though you don't like that business, you're getting paid.
I think that's great because I don't want to split one person over the other. Yeah. And I have another question too about these quartzes.
Oh, the crystals?
Crystals. Yes, sorry, I'm getting, yeah. The crystals. And what do I get? From a crystal?
Maybe
yeah, so CKO, let me repeat the question.
I'm completely enrolled in using this product and being paid in some ways for my
your time.
Driving.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm just curious what I get from my crystals that are piling up on my phone.
So the question is, well, you got all these crystals, what do you do with them? Well, first off, let's see what the crystals are. So this is the actual app. This is Jakarta, Indonesia. This is basically, you can zoom in on the traffic. And so as you run the app and drive through this space, you're collecting these crystals, which are in fact just fungible tokens, just ERC20 tokens. What can you do with these crystals? You could then use these crystals to advertise your business. So perhaps you operate a small shop on this building, and you drive to work every day. You could use these crystals to advertise through the platform to the other users. You could also use those crystals or those tokens to purchase these non-fungible tokens that represent the Go zones, the square kilometer of land. So they basically are the utility token component of this ecosystem, and they can do many things: pay for advertising for yourself and your business, or you could buy the land around you. But Simon, what else can we do with these crystals?
Well, basically now we also can buy real good here in Jakarta because, as I mentioned, we don't want to talk to people a lot on how the decentral corporation is. It's just that general remote. But if you want to buy in the digital world, you also can buy something like phone in your shop. Actually, I have
That's important. So again, what they also, because of the markets that they're operating in currently and plan to, it's cost effective in these markets to open up a shop. So you can take your crystals into their shop at the mall and actually get something you actually physically want. So if you want a phone or a Bluetooth device, you could transfer your crystals or your tokens for these physical objects. Again, something that I think we all agree is beyond the realm of what we could do here in North America.
Also, you user can piece of Bitcoin or piece of Ethereum in here.
So you can also convert these to other cryptocurrencies if you want.
Yeah.
So they'll be the idea is that this will be listed on exchanges by end of year, so that they can then be priced and then converted to other crypto if you would like as well.
I have another question, but I don't want to monopolize everything here. But so now, all right, so now I'm bought into the crystals and stuff. So this is a public blockchain.
Yes.
Okay, but is the public blockchain solely devoted to this application?
So the question is, it's built on top of a public blockchain, but is it really just a federated copy of a public blockchain? Are we just taking Ethereum, creating our own copy, and running the nodes? And the answer is no. So right now, and then the next question most likely will be, wait a second, what about, can you actually run this on a public blockchain? Won't you just get hung up with traffic, blockchain traffic, I mean? And the answer is yes and no. So right now it's built on Ethereum, but it's being transitioned to EOS for a number of reasons. Not all the data needs to reside on the blockchain. So it's being rolled out in stages. So there is some centralized components currently, and as those technologies built out, you could think of IPFS or other services that can hold the data. Like the data that's being held in centralized services are the, if you will, the map itself, how it looks. Much like CryptoKitties. CryptoKitties, you only have a hash, but the picture of your cat is held with the company. So whilst the real-time traffic data is being written to a blockchain and the metadata with regard to the businesses that operate within the GoZone is written to a public blockchain, the pictures of the buildings and whatnot are being housed centrally. That will also be moved over to a public blockchain once that is capable of supporting that. Okay. So much like CryptoKitties, it's decentralized up to a point, but not all of it, of course.
So you mentioned it's active in Jakarta. Are we targeting the Southern Hemisphere? Are these participation options available in North America that you're talking about?
So the question is, so the GoWithMi is targeting emerging markets. Could we, however, see this in America? And the short answer is no. Again, the team, it was a very conscious decision for a number of reasons. Well, the first reason is everyone in here probably has 1, 2, maybe even 3 apps that they use for mapping, and you're not going to change. And that's just reality. Now you might say, well, why would these people in these markets also change? Or why would they be able to use this versus the solutions that we have? And the simple answer is cost. So licensing the maps and access to the APIs right now are just too costly for these markets using the technologies that we use. So by having a homegrown, spun-up solution, you can lower the cost of entry to allow these markets to then use this technology.
So what type of participation are you expecting out of us, for instance?
Well, we're just engaging the developer community. Now, the CTO here, what I thought was being really great, is when we were in LA, he got off the phone and said, what happened? He goes, well, we were interviewing 9 programmers. And I said, so what happened? He goes, well, none of them made the cut. and why is that? And I thought it'd be interesting to get, to present the project and also to present it in such a way to a developer-focused community that this is how, a small business startup in Asia can spin up a decentralized solution. The challenges that they face, both with regard to technology and then talent. Because when they were talking about EOS, again, I think in the Bay Area we have our biases against EOS, quite frankly. And I said, I was trying to convince them, I don't even look at EOS. Boo. I've started looking more. There is a hackathon coming up November 10th and 11th. And the more I look into it, the more I go, it makes sense. I like the gas model, but I have many wallets. Normal human beings are not going to enjoy the gas model, right? They're going to go, oh boy. So EOS makes a little bit more sense with their RAM staking. So the business can stake the RAM to perform compute, and if that business in the future wants to pull out or change, they still have access to their tokens, their coins, if you will. So I think it really is something interesting. I'd really like, to introduce our CTO Simon, and maybe after it, when we're doing decentralized talk, if you're a developer, love to you can pick his brains as to what does a startup operating in Asia look for compute, rather developers, and the challenges that he faces trying to recruit. We all know that decentralized programmers are a rare commodity. It's everywhere in the world. It's a rare commodity, not just here.
Two questions. I was pretty excited about this. I downloaded the app.
Yes.
But for some reason, it wouldn't let me sign on.
Okay.
Sign into the app. So I kind of want to know why.
Now that's something. Okay. So the question is, well, I'll say this. I was able to download on my Android phone, but again, I wasn't able to use it outside Jakarta. So it does. There might be a slight issue with that. Okay.
So second is regarding the added revenue, both from the company perspective and from the customer perspective.
Yes.
How do you measure the added revenues and how do you ensure it's accurately distributed?
So the question about, please correct if I misheard. So how do we know the ad revenue coming in and how is it distributed to the participants?
Right.
So as the businesses advertise through the system directly, it's a smart contract that takes in that revenue and then automatically distributes it to the participants. So the GoZone owner or owners will set that up with regard to their payment addresses, and the system takes its cut, but the lion's share will still go to the owner of the non-fungible token.
And who would value those GoZones?
The actual owner. So one idea, I should say this. It's not, okay, so the question is, who or how is the GoZones valued themselves? Or rather, how do I know how much his GoZone is worth? So we believe in using a market approach for price discovery. But once you own it, we all understand that there must be some form of a tax or some intelligence to understand the value of that GoZone. Because if you buy a GoZone and you do nothing with it, and those around you are improving their information quality and density, you're basically withholding from society here that resource. So once a year, and I'm trying to talk everyone into using the Harbinger tax philosophy, whereby the owners once a year are required to price their GoZone relative to what they think it should go for, and then pay property tax. And again, the reason why I like this idea, it's an idea that came out of a sci-fi, I think Robert Heinlein, which I love, and then rediscovered in the 60s, and now rediscovered quite recently in the Bay Area. If you price it in such a way that you go, oh, I know, my land's worth a penny. Well, great, you'll pay your tax on a penny's worth of land, but I can come in and buy it up all. So you're incentivized to really think about, well, what's the value? Is it really worth a penny? Or is it worth more to me? What is it worth to you? And I think this idea resonates and works well, particularly, I don't think this idea works very well for homesteading, right? I think that's terrible because there's a lot of emotional attachment to our homes. But for businesses, I think this idea really can shine.
And then one last question. Being here in North America, can I buy GoZone in Asia and sublease it to?
I like that question. So the question is, okay, so I'm North American, I can't run the app, or rather I can't use the app like those lease markets can use and drive around. But can I buy the GoZones? Because maybe I think it's a pretty good model, and although I don't live there, maybe I could incorporate data that I know from other vectors and make the GoZone better and speculate. Answer, yes.
Of course.
Yes. So how would you do that? You just shoot us a line or check out the pre-sale. The private pre-sale is coming at end of year. Buy some of the utility tokens, which will then be, after it's on the exchanges, also by the end of the year, will allow you to buy these non-fungible tokens.
So one thing, in case you haven't talked about that, where do you store the map data? Is it on-chain, off-chain?
So the question is, where do we store the map data? So the map engine, and if you will, the pictures, it kind of looks like Decentraland, right? And the pictures are currently held centrally. The map engine and if you will, the graphical representations are held centrally. Now, if you will, the information with regard to the underlying base structure, that's on-chain.
So there are all these 3D models, right?
Yeah.
Are they not beyond the information collected by the drivers? Do you use some other map database to get those information?
This is a great question. The question is, so these 3D, let's look at the map too again. Yeah. So let's just go here. So here's the thing. We scooch in and we see these buildings and it looks like a video game. So how did this get created? So the map engine is custom solution. So it's not simply skinning another service. It's not just using some other person's services and then using that, because that would infringe upon their license and it would shut down. The company would be shut down. So the maps that we're looking at right now, the map engine's custom, and where did the data initially come from? It came from a single picture, a satellite image, and then from there, the team started building out the road structures, and as more users used it, that data started incorporating and refining what we see now. But the buildings that you see here, that's being basically built using the map engine custom solution. So that's why, for example, this is not operating in every city, every market, because of the complexity of the team that has to put this together and construct it. So it's being very targeted with regard to what markets and what cities will be rolled out to. Yeah, okay, yes.
So this is, right now, this is a driving app.
Right now, yes.
And you guys see extending it to be a walking app?
You know, so the question is, so right now it's a driving app. What about extending this to, let's say, a walking app? Now, I'd like to kick this question off to our CTO as to the future direction.
About future, absolutely. We want to put the fully functional full service for everybody. So okay, we must be to end the working vision to the people. And for now, honestly, they even don't have a good enough driving app for now. So we focus and they fix the animation and we will do side by side to do this. Yeah. Yeah. Well, sorry.
No, you do great.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm glad that Marina is here. I'm curious, what for the past 3 months, how many download and how many people listen?
So since April.
I don't want to see that because April there's always a spike, right? You can always talk about it.
Okay, so in the past 3 months, what are the analytics looking like? How many people have downloaded the app the past 3 months?
So basically, the whole download issue.
Well, wait, no, the question he's asking is past 3 months. So October, we count October? Whatever. So for the past 3 months, do we have that data? We might not have that data. We could get it offline maybe.
And the other question that I have is, let's assume that you don't have that information. Yes. 32 minutes seems to be very, very short time because the traffic is terrible. Why do they only use 32 minutes?
Because he basically when you driving, you want to check your information. First is average. You know, somebody just pick and close. It's average time. Actually, I think it's good enough for app from 5 months. If you make, of course somebody will use the audio to the home or to the company.
Yeah, we will get that analytics data though. So I think we should start looking that up. Right?
Yeah, because the reason I said, you can always talk about the event. You can run this mean, and it sounds really good, but in reality, that's not actually event.
So like Pokemon Go.
No, not
Why
necessarily.
not?
Well, no, for like the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the Bay Area we're much more sensitive to analytics and understanding and charting and tracking that. So that's something we can look up. But thank you. That's a great question, actually. We probably should put that in one of the slides. Any other great questions there? Well, we really appreciate you all coming down and seeing this, and we'd love for you to talk. Again, this is CTO, CMO, Simon, Marina, and they're here from Beijing. They're here for another week. Love to talk to you more about this project. And again, any questions you have, please direct it. Any questions? Thank you.
I have one more question. So just because you value your property, why are you being forced to sell it? So, for example, if somebody rich come in, he can actually buy all yours, right? That's the part really confusing. And also, where is tech going into? And then in Southeast Asia, there's a lot of corruption. How much of this money is actually have to be paid by the local government so that you don't get shut down?
So there are two questions there, I think, right? So the first question relates to the incentive, or rather the taxation strategy. Nothing, by the way, is set in stone. Harbinger, that's basically the idea behind it. Of course, has it ever been implemented, particularly around real estate? It's an academic model. So the question is, well, if I value it and some rich person comes in and buys everything up, is that really fair? And so there needs to be some dialing of that in. So that's, although I suggested that we were set in stone with regard to that, there will be some refinements to that. So I can't really talk about the exact specifics because it's evolving.
So that seems more like an ongoing auction.
Oh yeah, that's exactly the strategy.
Always open to somebody else. You really don't own it.
Well,
because someone else can always
one could
buy
argue, depending upon your philosophical views of real estate, you don't own real estate, right? And so it's a public good, or rather a societal good, that when you buy some land, you're basically removing that resource from the public, and therefore the public needs to be compensated for that, and hence why we have property tax. Now, I would suggest that how we do it in some states, with value at one time, and then you are incentivized never to sell, for example, leads to other problems. Now, the second question, and the more interesting question, is, well, how do you combat potential corruption, particularly around,
I don't think it's potential, it's future.
Okay. Well, I was trying to be.
You isolated the Southeast Asia, right?
Yes.
If you say Japan, maybe.
No,
it's still possible.
Okay, I'll remove potential. How do we combat corruption? Well, what about these people being bad actors, right? And that's why having a decentralized system is super critical, because when it's purely decentralized, whereby the data that you care about, that is to say the real-time data, and also the metadata corresponding to business and proof of location of objects within, all that's written to public blockchains. So you could use their system to see that data, or if you don't trust them, you could write your own interface to access the same data set. So the value in using their interface is that they have a quality interface. The data with which they're pulling from, that is to say the value, is being put in a public store.
So with that, there's a question for Simon, right? How do you validate it? Like Wikipedia, people actually go in and rewrite and validate the information. Depends on how important it is, right? If it is something about the famous person, there's a lot of, actually consideration before you can write information into it. So you cannot say that, oh, the previous president, he was not really a US citizen. You cannot public claim that, right? But if other people approve that, whoever got that, then they can, they have authority to change it. In this case, how do you know the information is correct or wrong? I can put McDonald everywhere if I wanted to. And just know that it's the same.
Take the slide to back to the
Who is voucher that is right, is correct?
I just
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You press that button for the green lead. Top one.
Top one. Try. So,
Should. Oh,
no.
should.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah. This is technology issues. The answer is we have no man to manage the data, because once somebody has in charge of something, they definitely have the evil in some case. Maybe. So we do housing automatically and use the game theory to make sure no man in charge, but we have put correct the right data. How to do that? Let me show you. Yeah, you can see basically the people we use when you go to a shop like you mentioned McDonald's, right? Okay, I'm quite sure about this is McDonald's because I'm just standing for it and I have the picture, I am computer. Yeah, but for now the data is now on the public. Yeah, because you taught this McDonald's. Okay, and then I'm quite sure. So I get bet about the 20 token, not talking about 20 token, about 60 token. I'm quite sure this. Everybody can challenge me. It's not correct or not. So I put my token in there, and I got contribution data in there, and then everybody, okay, it's about the 15 token. I can win if I put you at 1. So I get there, okay, you are honest, man, you are right. I get another feedback from the system, but you don't get, she doesn't get the bet you had, but also you double reward for your bet. So this whole system is no man in charge for this. Sorry.
No, that's good. Yeah. So it's a complex question. We're talking a question of oracles, right? How do you know real world data? How do you put in blockchain? And so it's a complex issue, and the solution is using shelling, the concept of shelling equilibrium points and a shelling point type idea. So people put the data in, they own the Go zone. When they purchase, if you will, the Go zone, they're really staking tokens, GMAT utility tokens, and they're incorporating the data and staking, if you will, that this is correct information. Others, though, can challenge that. That, again, is something that's evolving with regard to the exact model.
And also, how do you manage it when most people are living in high rises? In Jakarta, not unlike here, you may have 2 stories, 3 stories. People tend to live in a big building, so each building can have so many shops. How do you distribute that? You know what I'm saying?
So
like here, instead of one office, you can have, or 4 offices, you can have 20 offices, small little shop everywhere on each floor. So how do you advertise that, and then give them?
That's from the right slide. Sorry.
So while you do that, I'll repeat the question. The question is, how can you possibly put all the metadata that you want to in your Go zone, given the fact that there's such density and complexity with regard to the individual buildings?
Yeah. So the question is how to. Okay, I got it. So how to because there's many modules building a building.
Yes.
Yeah. How we manage it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yes. About that is why I use the 3D technology for hosting. Okay, so basically, 3D technology can zoom in, zoom out, even no limiting. So we can add information to the building because you can zoom out and zoom in and oh yes, you are in the right floor. Okay, you're in the right floor in the corner. You have McDonald's in there, such as this.
Yeah.
Okay. So only 3D can do this because basically we can copy every single geographic information in the real world to the virtual world. It's not a competitive problem.
Yes.
Competitive problem. Yeah.
But to answer that question a little bit different view. The idea is, for those Go zones that have extra complexity, the idea is that there would be just simply one owner, or perhaps the owner outsources the map curation duties to a team. And then therefore these teams of people get it paid. So the idea is, you bought it, but you'd like somebody else to manage it, or a team to manage it. And so they can do it, and they would be instantly paid through the smart contract, so they would know I'm being paid based on the quality information.
Because everybody is getting paid when they contribute data.
So I follow up the question. So does that mean you can minimize this ozone to unlimited number because you have so you can zoom in. So
yeah.
So is the question? Let me rephrase the question. So the question is, what is the limitations of the resolution?
No, for example, the big building, they have 100 rooms and 10 floors.
Yeah.
So that means you can separate this building to 500 ozone or 1000 ozone or
yes,
yes. It's a very good question. Okay. Because some copycat of us, yes, use the Gozon idea and they don't figure out what it actually is.
That's cool.
Yeah. Firstly, a digital asset is a data asset. Gozon is a zone. Data is data. Okay. You mentioned that the building, maybe the 100 floor, every data, you contribute the data. When you buy it, you can say how this area is one zone. Because what? Because that data cannot be accepted. Because map data will be wrong since in the time ago. 10 years ago this is McDonald's, and now it's reward. No, so you own this? Right? No, 10 years you done. It doesn't make sense. You contribute the data only by reward, and you can buy the gold zone. The gold zone is big, much bigger than we talk about for 1 floor, 2 floor, because we need to one man in charge of the. So no one man in charge of the chair, no man in charge of the stick, and no man in charge of this. Yeah.
We only provide 1 minute gold zone in our whole existing.
Yeah, the other one,
Is there a way to build applications on top of this?
Well, 2 questions. Let me. Sorry, Brad. I'll come back. I'm sorry.
Considering that this is a company in China, and there are so many big cities in China, why did you pick Jakarta?
Yeah.
So far away?
So let me rephrase the question, or restate the question. The question is, although the company has most of their dev talent out of China, why Jakarta, Indonesia? And a couple reasons. Well, first, the idea of targeting emerging markets, Southeast Asia being top of the list. But why Jakarta, Indonesia in the first place is primarily because the 2018 Asian Games were being hosted in Jakarta, Indonesia. Their subway was not complete in time, and the government there needed a solution. They needed a ride-sharing solution immediately, and outsourced to the GoWithMi team, which had extensive experience on mapping technology, traditional maps. When they started building the platforms, they decided to take the architectural focus on decentralized systems to future-proof it, if you will. And then, yes.
Yeah, this was about building applications on top of your platform. So I know you said that a single business, in a grow zone can advertise.
Yes.
But what if you have a real estate company that wants to advertise widely across?
Excellent. We'll take the money. No, but the question is, can you build on top of it? I mean, I keep talking about it as though it's like one restaurant advertising, but this is a mapping ecosystem. So the idea is to be very friendly to developers, to use the system, much like if you're comfortable using APIs, this is in a decentralized API. It's a decentralized platform. So yes, so you could say, hey, I have a number of businesses within my portfolio that I'd like to advertise. What are the hooks? What's the hooks to get in?
Right.
Yes. So this is a map ecosystem. I keep talking as though it's a one-off at a time, but you could deploy your application on top of this ecosystem and start using it.
And they could also leverage the go zones that are there.
Exactly. So the whole real value add. Oh, actually, I wanted to. So again, I'll come back to this. No, stay here. Stay. Okay. Oh, come on, just stay here. So I'll come back to this one. Okay. So these are the 2 slides I wanted to show. Maps are big. We know that. But actually, map ecosystem much bigger. So that's why the target is towards this. Build a system that supports all these other businesses to hook on top of it. Not just maps. Maps are great, but this is more important. These are the companies that will make this successful. These types of companies, I should say. And I'll bring this back.
Yeah, okay. So we are we're planning to do that. Why we do that? And basically the second step of this. Why? Because I think we see the value of the smart contract can do. Well, the smart contract can lower the cost of the management, as I mentioned the management. So if I can, like say, the fully value exchange in the time, in the space, that can make the smart contract do the real business. I mean, every business you have mentioned that basically it's just a map and management. Okay, we put the map and we can put smart contract management. So when I talk a small business, very small business, it's a long tail, right? This is the value of the business is go to long tail, but this will cut the middle. Why? At least you might hire somebody to manage the whole thing. But for this, for smart contract, you lower the cost of the management thing, and some business get to can earn money. It can make sense. That is what we do. That's why I think the emerging market will do. They don't have some big company in like USA, like China. They have no engineer to whole thing, but they have a market. They have a need to do the whole business thing. So we put you guys really see the high technology way. I think it's a cheaper way. To everybody have a right to own the business. Yeah, that's what.
Is this a publicly listed company?
So it's right now they've raised a seed round. They're having they're going global by an ICO route. So they're going to be having a token generation event at the end of the year when they get listed on the exchange. So right now it's not publicly listed. It's privately held.
So how are the regulations compared to SEC regulations out here? Is it as stringent as China?
Okay, so I'm not a lawyer, so I can't answer that. But I'll tell you this, from my experience, from what I've been hearing, it sounds like the regulatory fields are vastly different. Not to imply that they're easier, they're just vastly different. So one of the reasons why they're incorporated, for example, in Singapore, is because of this complexity. They're not incorporated as this entity in, let's say, in Beijing. It's a different structure. So the short answer is I can't answer that. That's on my wheelhouse.
Are you guys funded by relationship with some
Oh, so
Xiaomi, you mean? Oh yeah, yeah. For that, you mean we call GoWithMi, right? Not yet, because with me, it had somebody overtaken it, so we got changed it to I. Yeah, not Xiaomi. We want to, but we not yet.
So again, we thank you so much. We're really interested in understanding your interests. The asks, if you will, are multiple. If you're a developer, please come up looking for dev talent. Again, looking for any sort of partners, or if you're interested in perhaps participating in the private pre-sale, there's also that's coming up. So thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, thanks everyone for coming. Couple more things. If anyone is interested in our Cracking the Coding interview prep, we go through data structures and algorithms. That's coming up at 3, so in about 20 minutes. That'll be it's typically a packed house, so a ton of fun. Get your practice in if you're looking for a job. And we also have our blockchain open lab that's happening at 3 as well. So if you want to dive in, talk to some of our current students, see what they've learned, see if they can teach you something, then it'll be cool. But with that, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I
That's a great answer. I think they were very
Yeah.
responsive.
Oh.
I think pretty good questions.